This episode is brought to you by Meow Wolf. Manifest unique family memories at Meow Wolf Denver. Quantum travel is the most comfortable way for Earthers of all ages to explore a playground of imagination. And why visit just once when this immersive experience reshapes every time you enter? C Street is my favorite because C Street has this vibe of like 80s dystopian. There's like slime coming down the walls and there's weird posters. And then, of course, the secret club. With the annual Portal Pass, drop by Convergence Station as much as you want for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets. So if you plan to go twice, it's worth it. Plus, enjoy discounts, special offers, and so much more. Get the annual Portal Pass and spend quality space time with your favorite Earthers today. Learn more at meowwolf.com. That's meowwolf.com.
Today on CityCast Denver. Denver's got old bars, new bars, great bars, and crappy bars. But what's the best bar? For St. Paddy's this weekend, but also just because. Helping me pick the best of the best are AAA spokesman and Oak Creek Tavern owner Skylar McKinley and our politics and green chili correspondent, whose family happens to own the Tix Club on Curtis, Justine Sandoval. Today is Monday, March 11th. I'm Paul Caroli in for Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. All right, I'm sitting here today across the table from two people who know the bar business from both sides, behind the bar and in front. And we are going to do something today. We're going to pick the best bars in Denver because St. Paddy's Day is coming up this weekend. But maybe we should start there. I didn't think we should make this a category, but we should talk about what St. Paddy's in Denver is like. I'm sure you two, have you been to the parade, Justine, Skylar?
I have been in the parade. I've been in the parade. You know, a big part of my day job is preventing impaired driving. So every year in partnership with CDOT and Lyft and others, we tell everybody, hey, you know, if you happen to go out drinking this weekend, now why would you? But if you happen to go out drinking over St. Patrick's Day weekend, we'll give you a free ride home. So I've been in the parade and then I've gone out drinking after the parade. It is the great thing about the St. Patrick's Day parade. It is the only time that people who live in Denver care about being able to walk places. The rest of the time, we're so car-centric, and it's like, I couldn't find any parking in front of the bar. I'm like, why did you need parking in front of the bar? But over St. Patrick's Day, suddenly everybody's an urbanist, and that's the beautiful thing. To me, it's not about being Irish. It's about being a pedestrian.
People don't talk about this coalition building potential between drunkards and urbanists enough. You can really do something there. Justine, do you have a spot for St. Paddy's Day?
You know, I think it's mostly like an area. Like Lodo is St. Paddy's Day.
For sure.
I also spent a lot of years working on South Broadway, and that is another St. Paddy's
the Irish
destination,
Rover, of course.
The Irish Rover. And I've worked those St. Paddy's Day weekends where we've slept in the bar. And just so we can be up to start the next day. Don't recommend sleeping on the VIP couches in the back of a bar. It looks
There's nothing very important.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this. We got some important business here. We got 3 categories. We're going to go, each of us is going to have a pick for each category. You all know the drill. First one, this is a huge one, maybe the biggest one. Best dive bar. And also, what is a dive bar? Justine, you want to take a first crack at this one?
So this one was really difficult for me because I had to narrow it down because I love a dive bar. Like it's a bar you can find in most towns and cities in the U.S., a place where locals gather. And I had to really think about like, what is a dive bar? Because there are some places that claim to be dive bars, but they just have the like dive bar look, aesthetic, but it's really not a dive bar. So what constitutes a dive bar? I said it had to be somewhere where like lively happenings are constantly going on. There's
random BS.
Random like conflicts breaking out. But, you know, like all walks of life coming in and out, you know, from a couple strolling in for an evening drink to the locals to, you know, the unhoused person who hangs out there too with everyone on the patio smoking cigarettes. And I had to think there has to be like a place where, you know, a dive bar is like very specific. And I had to narrow it down to Colfax, my favorite dive bar street in Denver. So my pick was actually the Squire.
Wow.
On Colfax.
The Squire.
The Squire.
Tell us why.
The Squire for me was like a hangout spot in college that you went. It was the home of the original Wu-Tang Wednesday, which was always a great time. You always could get one big important thing to me for a dive bar is if they have a Happy Meal, which is a beer and a shot special.
So, agreed. 100% agreed.
Yeah.
The first dive bar I really loved, that was their specialty. And I was just like, I was there all the time. Loved
And
it.
the
They're
Squire,
easy to make too, which is great as a bartender.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to serve as a bartender. But yeah, it's full of locals, Cap Hill, a lot of people in the neighborhood. Lots of different type of people live in the neighborhood. And there was always happenings no matter what day of the week in the Squire.
I remember I was talking to one of my comedian friends about the old the open mics they used to do there, or maybe they were proper shows. I don't know, but apparently it was a really rough room.
Yes.
Like if you could get laughs at the Squire, that really meant something.
I know that to be true because when I did stand-up comedy in college, our initiation was to perform at the Squire.
Oh yeah?
And so that was actually one of the first times I ever went into the Squire, and I actually killed it. I did well in the Squire.
I believe
so
it, of
I kept
course.
coming back and coming back.
Skylar, what do you think about Justine's definition of a dive bar?
I think Justine had the perfect definition. It made me think about it. It's like a dive bar is a place where you learn that somebody you've been drinking with for a few hours is actually homeless. And you're just like, oh, wow. And,
Here we are.
we're all friends. So I also sort of slaved over this, thinking about the dive bar definition to come up with the best dive bar. And I had a very similar list. No kitchen. That's the most important part of a dive bar. A dive bar has to be a bar, right? You can't be there for food. And if you get too drunk and you need to eat, you got to go elsewhere. You got to leave the bar.
This is interesting. I'm not sure I agree with you about food, but go on.
Secondarily, a dive bar has to be, it can't be hip. It can't be cool. There can't be attractive people there. It also has to be reliably a dive. So a great dive bar is the High Dive, unless there's music there, in which case it's a venue. And then it's no longer a dive bar. It's just sort of a sticky floored venue, right? Even if you're not a regular, you don't feel out of place. So I chose, for example, for this, Nob Hill Inn. And the great example of Nob Hill Inn is you can be in there and there's always going to be the three old guys who I think, that you flick on the lights and they scatter in, right? Like cockroaches every day. But also you're gonna run into folks who are lobbyists who are just sort of sitting in a booth waiting for somebody and they don't want to be seen by other lobbyists. You're gonna run into construction workers. One time I was in there and a guy who drove for a bus service whose name will not be named. He took a shot before his shift, and I was like, this is the perfect dive bar. And so that's to me the distinction between a dive bar and a neighborhood bar, right? A neighborhood bar, if you walk in, everyone's going to turn and say, who the hell is this guy? And they're going to be friendly. They want to meet you because they want to meet everybody who goes there. But at a dive bar, there's still this level of sort of chaos and unfamiliarity that makes everybody in that way sort of more welcome. And I think, and you touched on this too, Justine, a dive bar has to be threatening without being perpetually threatening. And this is why I think we both chose Colfax, is something might walk in, and it might be bad, and it might be bad because of me. Maybe I'm the problem, thanks to this situation that walked in off Colfax, right? But it's not perpetually threatening in a way that, like, for example, Bar. I don't like going to Bar because I'm like, every moment I'm like, is this place going to collapse?
Yeah, Bar.
It's like, is there a structural issue? It's like, I better not flush this urinal too quickly or there's no more Bar. Versus Nob Hill Inn, you just tuck in and it's there and it's reliable and it's scary, but not in a way that makes you feel like you're the reason it's scary.
Well, it sounds like you two are on the same page with dives. I mean, I feel like this distinction you're describing about whether or not it's a true like dive, like there's dangerous random stuff happening, and then the more dive themed bars, I recognize that, but find me on the comfortable side. That's my preference. I would much prefer the dive themed place that has the split leather booths, but nobody is threatening me with any violence. I would like to be safe and comfortable. And that's why my pick for this category is I've been really loving Bar Car at 9th in Colorado. Yeah. That's a fantastic bar. They have Labatt Blue, Canadian beer.
Shipping can make or break a sale, so optimize how you ship your orders with ShipStation. They make it easy to automate and manage orders no matter how big your business grows. And they might even be able to help reduce shipping and warehouse costs. So optimize and keep up your momentum for growth with ShipStation. Sign up for your free 60-day trial now at ShipStation.com and use the code POD. That's ShipStation.com with the code POD.
Does Monday at the office feel like a storm? Not with Microsoft Copilot. That feeling when Copilot gets everyone up to speed instantly? It's sunny again. When Copilot simplifies complex data so your teams can act, that sun's shining on a beach. And when Copilot uncovers hidden insights, you're on that beach with your people, and you find buried treasure. That's Microsoft Copilot. Learn more at Microsoft.com/AI for all.
All right, let's move on to our next category. This is another one that I'm like, I want to know what you all think. I want to know where the good spots are, because I've got mine, but I think everyone's got one. Best bar to impress someone. Justine, you want to start us off again?
You're more impressive than me generally, so.
I'm doubtful. But best bar to impress.
Yes.
To me, I want to impress someone with my knowledge of Denver, of hidden gems, not always known in the city. So if I'm going to impress someone, I need that like element of history. So my favorite bar to take someone to impress them is actually located in the Oxford Hotel, which opened in 1891.
I've got it here.
And
Yeah, I picked this one too.
Well, this is clearly the one.
Yeah, I've got all these notes about the same thing you picked.
yes, so the cruise room, it was a bar that was created inside of the Oxford Hotel, which I love the Oxford Hotel.
It's beautiful.
It's just like quintessential Old West. You arrive on a train at Union Station, and then there's the Oxford Arch, and beautiful hotel. I think it's the oldest running hotel in Denver.
Really?
Yeah, the Oxford Hotel. Beautiful hotel. Great Christmas time. Go in, check out the decorations. Lovely. But the cruise room had originally opened its doors to its complete remodel the day after Prohibition ended. So
They were ready.
They were ready to go. And it's actually designed to resemble the Observation Room, which is a bar on the Queen Mary.
Really?
Yeah, so it's
That's why it's kind of
chic.
nautical. It feels that way a little bit.
And then all these global history panels, right? Because the Queen Mary was an international cruise ship. So it's like you look at the panels and it's not Denver history. It's the birth of industry.
It's actually they're panels that show different toasts from around the world.
Like toasting a glass?
Yeah, different type of toasting.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Lovely Art Deco, the red, sexy,
lighting.
chic.
The lighting.
Great cocktail, classic martini, always great at the cruise room.
Skylar, anything to add on the cruise room? This is a
I
cruise room love
I also
fest.
picked the cruise room.
Same.
And great cocktails. If you walk in there, anybody you're with is going to be like, this person knows the coolest spots in town. I will say this, there's a risk to that. So the cruise room is tiny. And so if it's packed, you're not getting in. So like this is bad first date territory unless you know somebody who works there. And then it's super impressive because they don't take reservations. So if you know somebody who works at the cruise room and you say, I'm bringing someone in, can we sit at the bar? Can we get a table? And you do on a busy Friday or Saturday night. That's the most impressive thing I think about going to the cruise room. Aside from being able to, what's fantastic about it and why, whether it's a date or it's a business engagement or I'm just taking somebody who's new to town, the bar at the cruise room itself becomes the topic of conversation. So all of the history that Justine mentioned, it is an Art Deco bar. It is stunning. It gives you something to talk about and in that way allows you to talk about what Denver is. There's this stunning Art Deco bar in the middle of what, some people might think is a cow town. Incredible. And if it becomes a little too upscale for you, well, tell them to go check out the urinals in the basement of the Oxford Hotel. These are giant, oversized urinals. I suspect they're the most photographed urinals in Colorado, but I can't prove it.
Send your photos to denver@citycast.fm.
Yes, so any photos of urinals. Actually, this is now a urinal show. Oversized, beautiful, historic. They opened with the building, and the famous lawman, Bat Masterson, apparently used those urinals. And I'm sure all sorts of folks who came through Denver. So
Sure.
Look, if you're trying to impress someone and size matters, don't worry about you. Just go straight to the urinals.
Well, I mean, you two said it all. That's why the cruise room is great. My one knock on it is the bathroom is downstairs and it's a little bit less accessible, but honestly, like that place is underappreciated. The other one I wanted to shout out in this category is, I lived in Cap Hill, like a few blocks from that nice strip on 13th Avenue. And when they put in Hudson Hill, that just totally changed the game for me. I love that bar. All the plants are beautiful. The lighting is nice. The drinks are good. And the menu is so limited, but they do that one grilled cheese sandwich so well. And if you don't want it, you can go across the street to Benny Blanco's. That's a great night.
They'll put a grilled cheese sandwich on your pizza. If you ask for it, they'll put it on there.
And it'll be amazing. Okay. This is the actual big one. the big show. This is why people are tuning in this morning. They want to hear what we think is the best bar in Denver that neither you nor your family own. That's an important caveat for you two. Skylar, you want to start with this one?
Yeah. So look, I had to think long and hard about this one, and I will say my favorite bar in Denver is Pete's Satire Lounge, but I'm the fill-in bartender there. I'm on the payroll, so it's not fair to select that one. I've got a financial interest. I can't be completely objective. My second favorite is the Denver Press Club. I'm the treasurer on the board of directors. Also not fair for me to pick the two bars I like to go to the most. Mm-hmm. But also, the best bar might not be your favorite bar. So if I'm thinking about what the best bar is in Denver, I went with Charlie Brown's. Because Charlie Brown's is having the kind of night that you're having. If you want a dive experience, you can go in there and you're going to get a very heavy pour, and you might sit out on the very warm covered patio area and where everyone's smoking cigarettes, and you're just going and there's your dive experience. If you're having an upscale experience, you're going to the opera later perhaps. Maybe you'll sit near the piano. If you're meeting up with old friends, you're going to sit at the piano and you're going to sing some, inane Billy Joel song you didn't know you knew the lyrics to.
And maybe don't.
Right, and you probably don't, but the guy who's playing the piano does.
Yeah.
And so when I think about places where I've had an amazing experience, no matter what mood I'm in, no matter what I'm trying to accomplish, it's always been Charlie Brown's, where I walk in there and I'm having an experience at a bar. The bar is doing something to me. I'm not just sitting and drinking. I think the downside of Charlie, but also, look, it's so weird. Right, they have this full kitchen. You go to the bathroom, and it's the hottest bathroom on the planet. Or you have to walk across what is literally a senior's home now. It's a senior center, right? Mm-hmm. You walk across the lobby at this ancient hotel. It's basically what I have to imagine Jack Nicholson's character felt like in The Shining when he realizes he was at The Shining before. That's always been Charlie Brown's. And so the one downside of Charlie Brown's is I used to go there weekly. I can't imagine that being my neighborhood bar, right? I step in there and it's a time machine, but I can't imagine getting off work and going and sitting at the bar. And they've got roller chair bar seats, which is really great. But I can't imagine doing that every night. But if I'm just looking to have a great experience at a bar any day of the week, from St. Patrick's Day to Flag Day to Arbor Day, the major drinking holidays in this country, I'm going to go to Charlie Brown's every time.
That's a great pick. That's good.
I love Charlie Brown's. That was our another college spot, because they used to roast a pig on Fridays and give out free wings. And so we would go Friday to eat and get your 2-for-1 drinks. Best.
Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, I'll go next. So I also struggled with this. I mean, it's actually really hard to pick best bar because there's so many different kinds of bars. So the way I went with was a little bit of a combination of what would be the bar that Denver would miss most, and then what's important to me in a bar. And that's the story. That's the story content. I love a bar that's got a lot to think about. So it's my brother's bar.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Is that yours too? I mean, hey, we know what the best bars in Denver are. Yeah. We agree. But my brother's bar, I want to talk about Neil Cassidy, because he's the beatnik that spent a lot of time here in Denver growing up.
Cowboy Neil at the wheel on a bus to Never Neverland. Yeah.
Hell yeah. But before he got famous with Jack Kerouac and those guys in New York City, he was bumming around Denver. He was growing up, having a hard time getting involved with crime. Went to prison a few times. And then they have up on the wall at my brother's bar a letter that he sent back to his high school counselor and rumored lover that said, please pay my bar tab for me at my brother's bar, which, cherry on top, used to be called Paul's Place. So I've always had a special place in my heart for that.
That's a great one.
That spot.
Yeah. My brother's bar. I've always loved my brother's bar. I spent my entire 20s probably in there.
Really?
My best friend that I grew up with in North Denver, she was a server there for over a decade, and her parents met there, and then she actually met her husband there.
Beautiful.
I have to tell you, I've dated too many waitresses from my brother's bar.
That's the other thing. Yeah, I had on here that I don't think I've taken more dates anywhere, cried anywhere, got kicked out and welcomed back the next day more than any bar, and knew all the bartenders, all the servers. And it's just a great bar. It's the oldest continuously operating bar in Denver.
I think so. It says 1873 was when it opened. Yeah. But obviously there's prohibition, so I don't really know the story there.
And then the Carragus brothers bought it in the 70s, Jim and Angelo, and they had it for up until recently when Danny Newman, my buddy Danny Newman, was able to buy the bar and keep Brothers' legacy going.
Which is such a great, like where we are now with the story of this bar, with this steward who's come in to save it and preserve it. And he seems like he has good intentions and he's trying his best. Like it just feels good.
And the staff seem to like him. Yeah, it's one of those places where you can go in and you're like, oh, I'm not doing anything evil by spending my money here.
Yeah, the transition was smooth because there was that fear, when the Carragus brothers were done, ready to retire, that what would happen to Brothers. So I think it's been a nice, smooth transition to carry on. And, it's just like the kitchen, you got to talk about the burgers. They're some of the best burgers in Denver.
The wax paper
You get it
wrap.
in a wax paper. Late night, you can order till almost 2 a.m. So... it's great. Good
the
beer.
patio. Should we talk about the patio? Beautiful.
Patio.
So
Classical
nice.
music.
Offers
Nice
a
and
completely separate and equally great experience.
Except
so
for
nice
the
in the
Platte
summer.
River smell, but it's part of the ambiance.
Fair enough. That's Denver.
Yeah. Fun fact that I like to share is if you go into Brothers and you go around to the dining room, there's a staircase that leads to nowhere.
Interesting.
It goes up and it just ends. And it's because there was actually a second story that burned down. And so they just capped it off and now it's one level.
No
so
way.
if you ever go and check out the staircase to nowhere to the ceiling, it has plants up it.
I will say just Brothers I grew up in Pueblo. And so we would come up to Denver occasionally for like maybe a doctor's appointment or we had to go to a mechanic or something, very special trips. And, before driving back to Pueblo, we would go to my brother's bar. And so to me, that was like, that's Denver in a cheeseburger. If I get the JCB and like I've had that memory for now, 25 years. And the second I go there, it's still that same, right? And that's that's why it might be the best bar, right? Is that the memories that you may or may not remember come back the next time you go in.
Just one last note on my brother's bar. I found this quote that Neil Cassidy's second wife, Carolyn, said about how he grew up that I just thought was like, this is best bar in Denver material right here. She says, Neil, having been raised in the slums of Denver amongst the world's lost men, was determined to make more of himself, to become somebody, to be worthy and respected. And I think that's the feeling you want when you go to a bar.
Exactly.
Well, Justine, Skylar, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
We want to hear from you too. What are your favorite bars in Denver and why? Do you like the kind of dive bar where you feel like you might die? Or are you more like me that the less threatening dive-themed bar is going to be just fine, actually? The Last Call hotline is open at 720-500-5418. Again, you can call or text the Last Call hotline at 720-500-5418. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell the person on the bar stool next to you about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Denver, and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you then.
Oh my God, I was at a bar the other day and this girl came up to me and she goes, "Are you just seeing Sandoval?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I recognize your voice from CityCast."